those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen. Nerds International proudly presents.
We want to take you on a quest for knowledge. One that will take us from ancient medieval fantasy across the far reaches of space to the distant future. To many savage worlds.
Welcome to the Wild Die Podcast, episode 40. Episode 40. This is a podcast dedicated to Pinnacle Entertainment's Savage Worlds, aimed at beginners and veterans alike.
This section here, we'd like you listeners to chime in. This is, where we talk about what we've been up to. Additions to the last show. In this case, there's something about downtime I want to mention. But yeah, feedback. If we have a discussion and you want to chime in, this is where we'll put your part, what you think about what's going on. So don't be shy. We mention our email address a couple times a show. Every show, just go to now it's at the bottom of the show, the end of the show. But yeah, we talked about downtime last episode, and it turns out that a couple days later, the new addition to the resource management PDF. Well, now it's kind of it's a real book too. It's quite large. That's for Hellfrost. It's written by Wiggy, and it's basically a splat book about if you want to be the mayor of a city or the grand priest of a temple or guild master, that type of thing. There's lots of material in there, so if you're looking for something that might help you with that, go check that out. It's out now. Yeah, we mentioned a couple of the the new blogs, the new members of Nerds International last episode, and seems like I forgot another one as well. Patrick Greenlaw, a friend of the show and a nerd friend, now has a blog called the Role Players Imaginarium, and he talks about his homebrew thoughts, inserting music into your game, all type of things. Quite interesting. Like many other blogs in Nerds International, it's not Savage Worlds exclusive, but he is a big Savage Worlds, Savage Rifts fan, so you'll find some of that stuff in there. Check him out. We'll have a link to his blog in the show notes. Yeah, this show, we've got open the books, some questions from our listeners. So we'll get into that. Then back on the show, Sandwich Worlds is back.
It's back. It's back, baby. The listeners demanded it. About literally up to 5 listeners have asked for it, and I brought it back for one last ride.
Yep. Just for them. And finally, we'll wrap the show up with the plug, where we talk about our highlights for the year, since this is the last episode of 2017, and then about things we look forward to in 2018. All Savage Worlds related, of course. Well, mainly.
Now, little Jimmy, you know what time it is?
Is it really?
Why, yes. It is that time indeed. It's time to open up the books.
Yes!
So, go over to Grandpa's bookshelf and go and pick any book you like. And then we'll open it up and we'll have a good look inside.
What about this one?
No, not that one. No, that's Grandpa's special book for his alone time.
Oh, okay, what about this one?
No, not that one either. That's, no, you know what, in fact, bugger off. Go away. No, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh.
Open up the books.
Open the books. We received an email from Mr. Michael Walsh, and Michael is about to start his own Savage Worlds Star Wars game for his group. He's brand new to the game, so he had a few questions going back to the basics. And I like this because, well, once you've been playing this game for a while, you tend to forget the basics that for some people it might not be as obvious as it is to you. So it's good. Just keep sending that stuff over, because this is the beginners, right? We say beginners and veterans alike. Well, this is very beginners. So I'm sure a lot of you guys listen to the show, never played Savage Worlds. You're not sure how to go about this. So we're going to give you the rundown on what looks like really four basic things, really, in every game. For initiative, so he says, so each round you deal cards to the players, except those who held their turn and still have a card. Are there other circumstances they do not get dealt a card?
Yes.
Gary,
I
you can answer this.
Oh, sorry.
Or Harrison can. Go ahead, Harrison. We'll save actions for Gary.
Well, yes, I can answer this one. I sometimes will not deal a card to a player if they've annoyed me, slept with my wife, or have not bought me beer if I'm GMing. Thank you. That will be all.
Or they're dead.
Also, if they're dead. Be the player or the character. Gary, your input, please.
So if you're playing at Harrison's table and you have a heart attack, you stroke out and fall over on the table, don't expect a card.
Thank you. Finally,
Excellent.
somebody understands.
Question 2. What's the answer to that? What's the real answer to that? There is no other circumstances, is there? I mean, I guess if you split the party, you wouldn't get a card, but you're really not in combat then either. So I think no.
There's also surprise. If you get ambushed, you're surprised you don't get a card.
Oh yeah, because you don't get an action
Right.
that round. Good point.
Also, GM tip here for the cards. A lot of people, they have 2 decks. So you shuffle both of them, you get both of them ready, you use one to play. And if you get a joker, instead of shuffling the same deck, you just switch and use the second one, and you can keep playing right away instead of stopping the game to shuffle the deck, because after each joker, the deck is supposed to get shuffled. So that's a little tip here. If you're not really good at shuffling the cards, or you're just lazy, something I do too, I think I picked that up from Clint Black that posted that up. Excuse me. He offers a Benny to whoever's going to deal the cards at the table. So you can ask one of the players, would you be the card master today, sir? And then if they say yes, you give them a Benny.
And a cloak.
Here's some GM Hangout pro tips. 2 decks. You give one deck to the first guy and the second deck to the second guy. And then when the first guy, he's the dealing guy. So he deals up all the cards for initiative and stuff like that. And then when the Joker comes up, you immediately can go to the next guy and he becomes the dealer guy. The first guy, he shuffles the cards and passes them to the third guy in the lineup. And you carry on that way just to speed the game up. Kind of like musical cards.
So his second question, he says, when you make multiple actions in a turn, how much is subtracted from each additional action? Does casting a spell count as an action? And are you able to still perform a physical attack at a penalty?
Well, yes. And for the penalty, it's -2 for every action over the first. So if you make 2 actions, they're both at -2. If you have 3 actions, they're all at -4. So on and so forth. So you could do as many as you want, as long as you're ready to take on the penalty. So you could run, cast a spell, and attack, and while the run wouldn't be at -4, obviously, but the other 2 actions would be at -4 each to cast a spell and attack.
Yeah.
So what if I wanted to cast a spell, shoot you with one hand, with the gun in my right hand, and then shoot you with the gun in my left hand, and then kick you, and then throw one of the guns at you because it ran out of ammo?
Yeah, well, you could totally
What's
do that.
the penalty on that?
It depends on the trapping for the spell, because as long as you don't need like a component for the spell, if the spell you're just saying something and then it happens, yeah. So first of all, you're going bet, and then the spell comes out. Shoot with the gun, shoot with the other gun, kick them, throw the gun. Right, so that's 5 actions.
Right. I mean, that's where it gets tricky because you won't find this in the book, but asking on the forums, Mr. Rules brand manager Clint Black, you can only do, use one hand and the other hand. You can't do like hand, kick, headbutt, butt, elbow. It's just you got 2 limbs, so you
That's
can
bullshit.
do one in each.
That's rubbish. No,
Otherwise, people would say, I hit you with my elbow, then I hit you with the other elbow, then I hit you with my fist, then I hit you with my left cheek, and then I hit you with my right big toe.
I think it depends. I think it depends entirely on the setting. If I was playing something that was like completely supposed to be a comedy game, I would allow that. If somebody wanted to burp out a spell, shoot with 2 guns, kick, and then chuck the gun. Just let's say, for example, they were doing those 5 actions on a turn. What would be the penalty, Eric?
All right, number 3, damage.
Shut up! Answer the question. He's asked this question, and we need to answer it properly. What is it? What's the penalty? Burp out the spell, 2 guns, kick, throw the gun. Gary asked this. He wants to know.
It's all the penalties. You get your character sheet taken away. That's your penalty, and you go to the corner.
Can you believe this, Gary? Can you believe how unhelpful Eric is being?
Yeah, the non-answer edition of the Wild Die. Submit your questions, and you'll not get an answer.
This is why we don't get any emails, Eric, because you're very unhelpful.
So as far as actions go, the general rule is you can't do the same action twice unless it comes to things like shooting, where you're shooting with your right hand and your left hand, because that is actually 2 shooting. In that situation, you would roll the shooting die twice. So you would roll your wild die and your shooting die 2 times. Right and left.
Those are two separate actions.
Separate. So that because you're taking, depending on the edges, whether you have multi-handed and what's the offhand penalty edge?
Ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous and
2-fisted.
And you can eliminate the penalties on that. So let's say you have those. So you start off by shooting an electric ball out of your spiked cod piece. Hip thrust. Out comes the lightning bolt. That's one.
Right.
Shooting is 2 actions.
Yep.
Kicking is 3 actions.
Yep.
And then throwing is 4 actions.
Yeah, but then you're shooting with your other hand as well.
Penalty to all of them.
No, but then you're shooting with your other hand as well. So in total, right, that's 5 minus 2s. So you actually got so that's a minus 10 on all the actions. Yeah.
Question 3. Does toughness equal hit points when dealing damage? Does a wound equal a hit point of damage? A raise equal 3 above or 4 above the success roll each time? How many wounds equals incapacitation? If I'm reading the core book right after 3 wounds, they are ?
Okay, toughness is not your hit points. Toughness is a measure of... No, I'm going to sound so patronizing. It's a measure of how tough you are, how good you are at sort of standing up to damage and just taking it like a beast kind of thing.
It's a threshold.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't equal hit points. It doesn't go down when you get hit by stuff.
Right. And when you're dealt a wound, this becomes a penalty to all your trait checks, so skills and attributes. But you don't, like Harrison said, you don't, your toughness doesn't go down by 1. It still stays the same. Now, a raise is 4 above your toughness. So for every raise over your toughness, let's say you have a toughness of 5 and you suffer 9 damage, that's 1 raise. That's 1 wound and you're shaken. Also, if you're shaken before and you're shaken again by a physical attack, that becomes a wound. But other than that, it's 1 wound per raise, regardless if you were previously shaken or not. It's always 1 wound per raise. And once you hit 4, that's where you're ink. And then it becomes different. You got the roll to see if you die. Different settings have different rules for that. Some of them are, it's easier to die than others. Some of them you don't really die. But yeah, ink, you can't take an action. You don't get a card on initiative. You can probably do, some GMs let free actions, like you could still talk. You could be unconscious, but you may not be. It depends on the flavor.
Yeah, and sometimes you can vary it depending on how you got incapacitated. So It could be, well, you got shot in the leg, so maybe you're incapacitated, you can't move, you can't take an action, but maybe you're just down because you got shot in the stomach. You know, a good example is Reservoir Dogs, like that guy. He's not like he's going to take a combat action anytime soon, but except for at the end when he shoots the guy. I mean, spoiler alert. But the fact of the matter is that he is incapacitated, but he can still talk, as Eric said. So, you know, depends on the flavour. But if you play it like a real person should, 4 wounds equals dead. And question 4 is on page 16 in the core book. It describes how to calculate parry, and if toughness is over a D12, I do not understand how the math works, and I'm just not seeing it. Could you decipher it in simpler terms, maybe?
So yeah, once you go over 12, you don't go to a D20. You still stay at D12, then you get +1, +2, +3, so on. But those pluses are rounded down. So until you hit +2, your toughness wouldn't go up. Like if you had D12 +1, it would still be, well, D12 divided by 2 is 6 +2, 8. You would still be at 8 toughness right there. And that's something, I guess, that can be confusing too. He doesn't mention that he's confused by that, but some people might actually roll a D12 and divide it by 2. It's just a value of the D12 that you divide by 2. So in this case, 8. But now if you had D12 +2, it would become a 9. Your toughness would become a 9. It's always rounded down.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah. The next question, this one is from Adam Anderson. That's Mr. Savage Retweets. If you're a Twitter person, if you post a tweet and it's about Savage Worlds, put the hashtag Savage Worlds in there, and Savage Retweets will pick it up and echoes it back onto the Twitter sphere for everybody to see. So follow that account, Savage Retweets. So yeah, Adam asks, Dear the Wild Die Bros, I've been thinking about the reaction table, and that is on page 27 of the book, the Explorer's Edition. I always skip this type of mechanic because I feel it feels sort of like a randomly generated dungeon, rather nonsensical. Am I missing out on something here? Does anyone use the reaction table? Is it cool? What are some interesting ways that it could be employed to make the story and or the game better for my players? Regards, Adam. Have you ever used that table, Gary? Do you know what he's talking about? No?
Yep. Yeah, the reaction table is the table where you can just make a random 2d6 roll or whatever, and depending on the higher the better. You have I think 5 different stages for the reaction. They're either going to be like hostile or super helpful, one of the two.
Yep. So yeah, you're basically right. 2d6. You add up the charisma for the 2 persons, and the higher it is, the higher their reaction is. That's basically, when you meet the player meets a character, an NPC, and you're not sure how he's gonna react to that character, and you can't make it up. You can just roll it. I think I've used it once, but I'm one of those guys where, I played Roll Master back in the day, and it's called Chart Master or Table Master. People make fun of it that way because it's all about tables all over. And to me, by the time I open the book or look at the chart roll to determine that, I might as well just decide. Sometimes it'll make sense. Like if you come up on a guard, you want to get through that gate and the guard is there, he's probably going to be uncooperative or just neutral, indifferent, whatever. Or he could be hostile if he just saw you, kill someone out in the street or something. But I just rather decide. It's faster.
I think it is one of those things that can be nice sometimes if you're a GM to challenge yourself. Maybe in, say, for instance, like a Wasteland survival type game or a zombie game, if they come across a group of other survivors, maybe just once in a while, if you don't know how they're going to react because these players haven't met them before, just roll on it. But most of the time, I would just make it up. It's far easier than getting the book out and rolling on the table. I to be fair, as we started talking about this, I forgot what the table even was, so I had to double check. That's how little I've ever used it. So I had to go over to my shelf and get the book and just double check what he was talking about, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I don't think I've ever used it, but I wouldn't use it for story stuff like that. I tend to avoid things like that for story. I don't particularly like it.
Yeah, when I play, I still, without rolling on the chart, I still know what my NPC's disposition towards the players are, because if they go and want to change their attitude with a persuasion check, I know that they can only go up 2 different. So you can't go from hostile to, helpful or friendly. You can't change someone that wants to kill you into someone, you're going to marry, or he's going to become your best bro. You can only do so much. So I'll use that chart as kind of a reference, but to actually roll on it, I don't do that.
GM pro tip coming up. Something that I learned from 5th edition when I started playing that is usually in 5th edition, well, they've sort of remedied the situation where the higher the number you roll, the better it is. And that's the general sort of how you play 5e. It's pretty straightforward. Apply that same technique to Savage Worlds. If you don't know how to do something, or you come across a situation where you're not sure of what it's going to be. Let's say your party wants to go find a sword, and what I would like to do, or what I do sometimes, especially in 5e, is I'm like, okay, roll me a d20. The higher the number, the better the sword they find, kind of a thing. And you don't have to think about it. You just go that route. Apply that across the board. You want to go find a guy to fix your leather armor or something like that. Roll me a d20. If they roll a 2, they find some guy that basically stitches it up with some hay bound together, or something that's going to fall apart. It's a simple, easy rule for quickly doing things like this. Reaction table. Roll me a 20. The higher the number, the better the reaction's going to be. Although there already is a table for this one, so you don't really have to go that. But there you go. Sweet. GM pro tip, nice and easy.
So thank you very much for your question, Adam. And for anyone else in the future, keep them coming in. We'll always try our best to answer them. I'm sorry about the one with the multiple actions, and that my colleagues, Eric was very unhelpful with that, and saying that you can't headbutt, spell, chuck a gun, and shoot 2 guns in the same round. You can. Even if Shane Hensley says it's wrong, he's wrong.
Even if we don't know what the penalty for it is.
10.
Yeah, that's like when we played a couple years ago. We played with John Goff. We played the Deadlands Noir, and Gary was going with the unstable penalty, driving a car, shooting the rapid action out of the window, and he had like a -16 penalty or something like that. It took us about 5 minutes to figure out what the penalty for all of that was.
What an epic scene, though.
The next up, guys, I know that you guys have never been particularly supportive of my creative endeavours, but keeping it sort of in keeping with the Savage Worlds theme and stuff, I brought back Sandwich Worlds for one last hurrah for Christmas.
Sweet.
Oh, God.
I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. You guys do Sandwich Worlds. I'll be right back.
You gotta be here, Gary. Don't say that. Come on, just give it some. Can we look? Just because it's the last one, can we guys give it like the respect it deserves? It's the last ever one. Is that right?
Do you promise
do
it's
it.
going to be the last one?
Sandwich Worlds! The end of a year. And of course this means the end of another era in sandwiches. 2017 has brought the rise and the fall of the lasandwich, the worst sandwich ever created by man, and the only sandwich to ever break the heart of a man so hardy and steely as I. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is Sandwich Worlds, where we talk about the latest in sandwich news, sandwich developments, and sandwich science. But today we are talking about the Christmas dinner, which of course is not a sandwich, but a meal. So why, then, on Sandwich Worlds do I then bring it up then? Well, I'll tell you then. So listen, because this is why I thus bring it up, and this is why it shall be thus. And this is why it always will be thus. And this is why next year it will be thus. So listen, because this is why it is thus. The following day, Boxing Day, or as our American cousins know it, the day after Christmas, people will assemble sandwiches using the leftovers of their Christmas turkey dinner. How is the best way to do this? Well, you need 2 thick cut slices of white bread, lightly toasted, and then spread some cranberry sauce, and then add a layer of turkey, and then some potatoes, and then some sriracha, and then another layer of thick cut white sliced bread. Jesus Christ, do I need to educate you on everything? But ladies and gentlemen, I have a sad fact for you. This year, I was out collecting a turkey for Christmas dinner, punching it to death, and I saw in its eyes a glimmer of something I would call a personality. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. I have become a vegan. The very thing I hate the most. I took it back to a lab, and I think that turkeys may be people too. And this is why I am only eating vegetables from now on. I can't even say it right. And you cannot put lettuce in a sandwich. No, you cannot. It is a fact. It is just crispy water. And so from now on, I will never be doing Sandwich Worlds ever again. From now on, I will be doing a new segment called The Wild Pie. So what did you think, guys?
I'm going to let Eric go first on this one.
Really worked hard on that one. Extra length. Got some advice in there. Philosophical.
Thought pies had butter in the crust and all that. Vegan? How does that work?
Okay, I didn't really think that one through. Okay. Alright. Well, maybe I'll go back to the drawing board with that one, but what did you think of this episode? Like, I haven't done the new one yet.
You're just one of them weak-ass vegans, aren't you? Let's face it.
Well,
you're not a real vegan. You're not a Regan.
It's just a hipster
why do you
thing.
always have to use this segment to bully me? I just don't get it.
Look at him. He's wearing this leather jacket, and he's got a wool knit cap on his head. He calls himself a vegan.
I just don't get it. I thought you guys are my friends, but... Alright, well...
So just out of curiosity, have you ever put potatoes on a sandwich before?
Yeah, it works. It works in this one. I mean, if you try it, you'd know, but you'd never listen to anything I say anyway, so... Hey, it's the podcast log.
So for the plug, I figured we'd go over the year, try to dig deep. I know it was a fun exercise for me because going back this far, like you can't remember, was that this year? Was that the year before? So, give us a break here. We'll do our best to remember what happened this year. And highlights of the year could be products, things that you bought, a campaign that you played in, a one shot, some news, anything Savage Worlds related or remotely Savage Worlds related. And looks like Harrison's got some notes here, so let's start with them.
I got notes coming out the wazoo. But yeah, so I'll try and keep this brief. But first of all, I wanted to speak about Lankmar, which I played this year. I had an absolute blast playing it. I played 3 times, I think, and I first of all had it GM'd by Eric, which you can listen to on this podcast. It was one of our actual plays, and we played the Bounty of the Black Skull adventure, which I then GM'd for a few friends the following day. And I really, really enjoyed that because it's a setting which I was reading the original books for, which was also recommended by Eric, and really getting into. And I found that the setting books and Savage Worlds in general does such a good job of recreating the feel of it. And absolutely, really, really enjoyed playing that. We actually played an 8-hour session of Lankmar. It was just 2 adventures back to back, but it was so good. And I'm really enjoying reading it as well. So yeah, reading all the other adventures and stuff, absolutely brilliant. Second of all, I want to talk about Terror in Talabium. But wait a minute, Harrison. That's a Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd Edition adventure. I know, listeners, so shut the flip up. But Eric actually ran it for us using Savage Warhammer, and he did a bloody good job about it, but he's got that in his notes, so I'm not going to bother talking about it. So next up, I wanted to talk about Shake-On, which also you can hear our feedback on this podcast, because we did a sort of documentary type podcast about. That was a Savage Worlds convention, the UK's first Savage Worlds convention. Absolutely had a blast at that, and got to meet Manuel, who's now a permanent host on this show, for better or for worse. And when I met him, I found out some very dark things about him, which I cannot share on this show.
Yeah, he can't be on the show today because we're recording this Christmas Eve early in the morning, and apparently in Germany they celebrate Christmas for 3 or 4 days, starting on Christmas Eve. So he's with family.
What is wrong with that backwards country? Apparently rivers flow upstream as well. I don't know. But yeah, Shake-On was an absolutely amazing time. Played 5 games total, and each one had a really, really different feel, and I felt like it did such an amazing job for such a small convention. Additionally, I want to talk about American Honeybee. This was a game that Gary did about superheroes in the 70s, was it, Gary?
Yeah, 70s, 60s, in that area. Yeah. No, I think it might have been actually earlier than that. It was just a little bit right around the nuclear era, space race era. So the 60s.
It was absolutely amazing. We played on Fantasy Grounds for Fantasy Grounds Con, and one of the things I remember was I played a character called who had laser eyes, but his name was Lazy Eyes, and we used the burst template to show where his eyes shot whenever I used the spell, and used my superpower, and it was awesome because he had lazy eyes, so it meant that his eyes would just shoot these lasers in dodgy directions. And I remember Hobo dropping out of a bin. I remember us using a teleport spell to just go to the last boss and just kill it, and it was so good. And it was the only game this year that I stayed up till 2 a.m. to play, I believe. So yeah, you've got that honor. Usually I'm an old man and I go to bed very, very early, so yeah.
You're not even telling them the best part of the whole story. Scene 1, you're at the bank, and there's a bunch of police officers surrounding the front of the bank. The hobo was in the back alley. So you guys all went into the back alley and started fighting the super hobo. Hobo Man was his name, and he had the ability to create trash golems. So you're blasting all the trash golems with your crazy laser eyes. And then one of the players, her ability was she had like a Harlem Globetrotters afro, and she could reach in and literally pull out anything that she wanted out of her hair. Well, she pulled out a gun and she started shooting. And I'm like, there's cops within a city block and you're in the back alley behind the building. And so now the cops are coming, and you took off running over the fence, went down the street like 3-4 houses and knocked on the door, at which point a small boy opened, and the first thing out of your mouth was, I shoot him with my laser eyes.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Oh yeah, whoops.
Oh, that was the best part ever. And then you just peered out the mailbox and watched the police run around the street.
To be honest, I was drunk before we'd even started that game. So sorry about
Maybe
that.
that's why you thought it was so good.
It was a great idea. It worked. We finished the adventure.
We did.
Next up, I wanted to talk about the Scooby-Doo game that I played at Dragon Meet. That was Scooby-Doo meets Cthulhu in Savage Worlds. That was absolutely incredible. I mean, I don't really need to say any more about that. We played all the Scooby-Doo characters in Arkham. So there you go. And I also wanted to talk about doing a bit of work for Just Insert Imagination as well. I worked on Punted in the Bonts, which was a Cockney adventure, which I had the good fortune to be able to write, thanks to Mornay and Eric, who had the confidence in me to allow me to work on those things. And I worked with Eric on Aliens vs. Rednecks, which was one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life. So thank you very much for that. Which are 2 adventures that are available now for the small price of pay what you want. Lastly, I just wanted to thank the listeners for making it a very, very enjoyable year, and for all the praise that I've got for the actual plays that I edited and did all the sound effects and stuff for, because I really enjoyed those. And we've received a lot of overwhelming praise for those, and people have made me feel as if all the hard work I put into them was worth it. So thank you very, very much for that, listeners.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff, huh? Wow.
What a year,
Looking
man.
back at that, yeah, what a year. For me, like Harrison mentioned earlier, the Terror and Talabime, that was the tail end. Well, the bulk, I'd say, of the campaign, which ran until around May, I think, of the year. This was one of the most successful campaign I ran in years, seeing as, yeah, I usually run one-shots mostly, but we had a lot of fun with that. I mean, it took me back to when I first started with Warhammer, and of course, playing it with Savage Worlds, I was amazed. I wouldn't say surprised that it was a good fit for it. It was kind of put together oddly by me, where I didn't have a really sturdy player's guide for the players to, use and make characters with. It was just cobbled together with the fantasy companion, some notes, the mutation deck, but it worked. It's just saying that you don't really need something tightly knit. You can just feel your way through it and just have fun. And the fun part was the characters. You had Harold playing a kind of like the Mountain from Game of Thrones, where he's just a ruthless killer. Always had great one-liners. Nick was in there playing a dwarf who was Manuel's character's brother, so they played off each other real well. They were real good role play right there. It was Mark and Bill Lear, also great role play there. Played some flashback scenes with them, that kind of thing. And Harrison got to play 2 characters, one main one that he played for most of it, and yeah, that was fun. She was a good character.
I really liked it because her backstory was involved in the main story as well. So it was really fun to be involved in that. And I think throughout the whole thing, I only missed one session, which was awesome. I think that Terror and Talabime will definitely go down as one of my all-time favorite campaigns. It was so much fun, and I got to meet all of those people and sort of make genuine great friends with them as well. Like, that's how I met Manuel, and then he ended up coming to the UK and us going to a convention together. So it was really, really cracking memory. And as you say, the Warhammer universe, that was my introduction to it through Savage Worlds, and it's like such an amazing fit for it, because you can do really gritty fantasy in Savage Worlds quite easily, and I think that it was spectacular. I really enjoyed it, and especially the disease with the mutation deck as well worked really well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that people say when you mention Warhammer and Savage Worlds. They think Savage Worlds is just, well, it's over the top, and to a lot of people it's hard to die, but with the right tweaks, and I used gritty damage and other ones like the mutation and all that, but We played for about 6 months, and we had three characters, character deaths. So it was, and most of the time people were all fatigued by disease and walking wounded all the time. So,
and I would say that pretty much most of the combats in that game, we couldn't get through them without thinking and playing smart. It wasn't a case of like, oh, we breezed through every combat because it's Savage Worlds. It was hard. It was challenging. It wasn't like an easy ride. Every time you had your turn, you had to use it cleverly to do it. It was spectacular.
Yeah. So that was it for Terran Taliban. What happened? We had to stop it because I changed my work schedule, so I couldn't make the time anymore to play. And we thought about bringing it back, but things happen, and maybe some other time. Highlights of the year too, all the Kickstarters, and we had a lot of people come on the show too to talk about their Kickstarters. I mean, Retribution, Frozen Skies. Let me do that again. All right.
Just don't mention that one.
Okay.
Which one? Frozen Skies?
Yeah. So, yeah, we had
you should have led with that. Sorry, Aaron.
Say that one
so
first.
So many Kickstarters this year, and I'm afraid of naming them because I know we're gonna forget some of them. I think Zombie Squad, Retribution, Seven Worlds, Titan Effect, help me out, Frozen Skies. That's right.
No.
There was 7 Deadly Dungeons.
No.
Nope. Shit.
Not that one. But yeah, anyway, if I forget some of you, sorry. There was, I think 1 month we had 3 Kickstarter episodes the same month. So, and turns out that all of them funded. So congratulations.
So, we're not saying that we were responsible for that, but we were responsible for that.
Yeah. Thanks to us. Yeah. So, yeah, and some of them I backed myself. I mean, I think it was September or October, there was about 12 Savage Worlds Kickstarter going on the same month. And, of course, I couldn't back them all. I could only back a few. But so congratulations, and looking forward to see some of them come out. Most of them came out. Oh, there was, of course, Eli Kurtz to Blackwood. So that was quite successful. I got my book, my softcover reward for that, and the map looks gorgeous. All right, and then what else? Well, professionally, all the freelance projects I worked on this year, there's quite a few minor contributions in all of them, but still, I'm glad I got to work on those. It was Retribution, Chronocalypse, the Buccaneers, and started working on the Monster Hunters Club too. I've got quite a bit of work on those to do. So, and I'm looking forward to it. That project is awesome. So that was great. And Harrison mentioned too about Just Insert Imaginations. I worked on the adventure guide, The Cities, of course, Alien versus Rednecks. And right now I've been writing Gangsters, upcoming book for Just Insert Imagination, about organized crime. And it comes with setting there, which is kind of movie Casino meets Pulp Fiction. So, I mean, for the last 6 months, that's pretty much all I've been doing. This year, I've taken a seat back as a GM quite a bit, but I like that because I got to play in a lot of games too. I find that, well, I prefer being in the GM seat, but that said, I've been fortunate to play in very good games from very good GMs, both Savage Worlds and not Savage Worlds games. So I'm grateful for that. which leads to Con on the Cob. This is probably the highlight of my year, I think. Meeting Gary in person. Not a whole lot of Savage Worlds played there. I played one game, ran one game, but just to be with the nerds, like I said, meet Gary, get to hang out, get to laugh, have a good time. That was great. And that's when he gave me a great present, the Lankmar box set for my birthday over there at Con on the Cob. Man, that box set is gorgeous. All the books, the GM screen, the adventure, and then there's hold on, can you guys hear my dog in the background?
We can hear your dog. We can unfortunately hear your dog.
Dog is trying to bite his own butt right behind me. You can't see it, but he's just chasing his own butt. So, a highlight of my year too. That I've seen a lot of that this year. But yeah,
the dog, the dog chasing its own butt's a highlight.
Yeah.
What a boring year you've had.
But yeah, Lankmar box set, gorgeous, and looking forward to play that. Well, like Harrison said we played one game online, actual play, but I want to play some more of that. Maybe next Con on the Cob, I'll have to, dig out that box and play that stuff. But yeah, that's about it for the highlight for me. What about you, Gary?
I don't have any highlights. You guys droned on so long about your frickin' Warhammer game that I don't have time to tell you about my stuff.
Yes, you do.
Where are you going, Eric? He asked me a question and he gets up and walks away.
I'm listening.
I can hear you. I'm just trying to get the dog out of. I'm trying to get the dog out of here.
You go chase the dog's tail with him.
Yeah. Be right back. I can hear you.
You don't really have to hear me. Yeah, I didn't even write any notes, to tell you the truth. I don't really have many highlights from this year. I didn't do much. I work a lot, so. What is a highlight of the year? I mean,
Savage Worlds related highlight. What did you do? You played Deadlands. You started Deadlands this year.
my campaigns were pretty sweet. I got to tell you that much. A 50 Fathoms campaign was top notch. And I think actually next year I'm going to start another 50 Fathoms campaign. I'd like to get through some of that material farther than like the second adventure where everybody just kills themselves. GM pro tip, don't have your players play the captain of the ship because everybody's going to want to kill them. And yeah, I don't know. Other than that, man, Con on the Cob was quite the blast. I met some interesting peoples down there, names withheld. I do have some videos that I should release of Eric and Stefan riding the vibrating chair. Huh?
Well,
turn the butter, chop the salad.
Are you sure you should be releasing those?
Maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah, and then my Deadlands game, that went great until my kid got a girlfriend, and then that went for a crap too. So all in all, 2017 can suck it.
Fair enough. But next up, we wanted to talk about what we're looking forward to in 2018, because that's probably a better perspective to come at, Gary, because if 2017 can suck it, what are you looking forward to next year? What are you going to do next year? You said you wanted to run a 50 Fathoms game?
Yep, I think I'm going to fire that up at the beginning of the year. I'm going to try playing some more online is I think what my goal is going to be. More online DMing games online with online stuff.
Do you reckon you might start up a regular one? Maybe invite your good buddy Harrison, because I very rarely get to actually play any games with you.
Yeah, no, what I'm thinking is doing a Sunday morning game after we record the Wild Die or something like that. We'll do a Sunday game, but I'm going to campaign it. I find that I like doing the one shots. There's nothing wrong with them, but I'd like to do some campaign material, but not have like, a year-long or 2-year-long campaign. We'll do 10 shots. I'm a 10-shot campaign guy, and then that's it. And if it craps out before that, then it craps out before that. Problem is, I have a lot of money. You guys know. And I buy a lot of material, and I have so much freaking material, I don't even get to play half the shit I have.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel the same, and so you want to kind of do a mid-length campaign to get onto the next thing.
Well, there's so many things that I want to play. Like I never actually got through Deadlands. Whatchamacallit, the Flood, which was really good. I really like the story. I think now that I've run it once already, I could probably do a better job the second time around and pick up on a lot of things that I missed off on. And yeah, I just have so much freaking material, man. Like you were saying with the Kickstarters this year, I backed so many things. I backed Shantar. Shantar. What the hell? I did that.
I remember I caught Colin the Cobb, Sean Patrick fan, and sort of got mad when Gary said Shantar. That was funny.
I never know how to say it, and it's whatever. Anyways, so I did that. What else have I got, man? In the last little while, geez, I got the Blackwood. I want to play some of that because that one game we did with the Wushaw stuff was just freaking fantastic. Flying out of that boat, hanging from the flying boat, and then all the kick-ass shit we did in the tree was top notch. I think I even used that boat for cover at one point.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of that.
Yeah, another actual play that we put out on this channel. So don't say we don't spoil you, listeners.
Yeah, Saga of the Goblin Horde. I've been building some stuff inside of TTS. Work just got so bloody busy this year that I ended up just sort of pushing that off to the side, and I've just been running one shot. So I think I'm going to make more of a committed effort next year to maybe run some Sunday morning campaigns. ETU's kind of fizzled out now that Pearson's kind of given up on that. And yeah, I find that I'm online Sunday morning. Let's do it.
Well, I'd be well up for that, Gary. But additionally, next year, I'm also going to be starting up a long-term Savage Worlds campaign. It's been a long time bloody coming. I'm doing a Solomon Kane campaign. We've had this earmarked in our table game for ages. But the annoying thing is that we always have like a schedule in our group, and so we were playing something which I can't remember, and then we played Bubblegum Crisis, which uses the fusion system, and then after that we played we're currently playing a Batman game set in Gotham, and then and now once that's finished we're finally playing Solomon Kane. So obviously all those campaigns take absolutely flipping ages, and then we finally get to it. So we've been wanting to play this campaign for ages, and we're finally going to get to it. And a couple of weeks ago the DM Peter, he tells me, he goes, oh yeah, by the way, not this session, but the next session's going to be the last one of the Batman campaign, right? And then last week we killed Batman in the Batman campaign. We killed him because we figured he's not actually that good for the city and all of this stuff, right? And then he comes to me and he goes, oh, by the way, Harrison, we've got 3 more sessions before Solomon Kane. I'm like, okay, so when is my campaign starting? I don't even know. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, Batman's done when it's done, but next year I'm finally starting Solomon Kane, and I'm so excited for it. And all the guys are extremely excited as well. So I'll be doing a long-term Solomon Kane campaign. And additionally, I'm really looking forward to the first thing I ever backed on Kickstarter, because I was like an old woman and I didn't quite understand how Kickstarter worked, and I backed Flash Gordon for Savage Worlds, and I'm so hyped for it. I can't even say. And I said some pretty hypocritical things about Slipstream and how you didn't need Flash Gordon and all of this stuff. And then I saw it and I got caught up in the hype, and now bought it.
I got caught up in the hype, in the Flash Gordon hype.
Yep, I certainly did. Yep, I'm a massive hypocrite. I've always said that.
I get way too caught up in Kickstarter hype, man. I've backed so much stuff. It's like I said, I just don't have time to play it.
I would if I had any money, but in this particular case, yeah, I decided to treat myself, and I did, and I'm really excited for it.
You just end up like me with all of this stuff that you can't play, and then just be sad.
Yeah, good point. But yeah, it looks awesome, and I've backed it at the level where I get the main book and the world book as well. So and in the hardcover limited edition thing. So I'm really excited for that, and so hopefully I might be running a Flash Gordon campaign next year as well. But then the schedule for our group is ridiculous. We've got like 4 other campaigns after my one, so it'll probably be in like 2050.
20 for me. It's Gangsters. I need to finish this. Like I said, I've got quite a bit already, but we're now in the playtest phase. It began at Colin the Cobb, and in a couple days, going to playtest some more, and then in the new year, a lot of playtests and writing some more. Working at it, and hopefully have a great product. And when it's all said and done, right now I'm pretty pleased with how it's turning out. But yeah, it's for all of you guys that think, oh, I want to write a setting. You know what? It's a lot of work. It's not just like a one sheet or an adventure. It's a lot of work. So yeah, that's one thing. Then of course the new Savage Worlds edition, or new reprint, whatever you want to call it, that was teased at, and we had an episode about it on the Wild Eye a few months back. But this probably by the end of the year. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with that, what they change, and there'll be a new edition for the fantasy and horror companion as well. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with it, because there's a lot of material in the fantasy companion that made its way to the current edition of Savage Worlds. So are they going to replace that with other material, or are they just going to cut it? I don't know, but we'll see. Finally, we talked about all the Kickstarters, and one that I pledged. It's Beasts and Barbarians, the Steel Edition. Everybody knows that it's my favorite setting. So I went all in with this one, with the box set and all that. That's the most I've ever given to a Kickstarter. And I already received the PDF material, but next year, early next year, should receive that box, that sweet box with so much freaking content in it. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But yeah, that's mostly it. I don't really know of anything else coming out for Savage Worlds. And like I said, until I'm done with Gangsters, I'm not starting a new campaign, even though I would love to, even if it's not Savage Worlds. There's so many books right now I'd like to run. Cthulhu City, Cypher. I got into Cypher again.
All right, shut up. You're talking about non-Savage World stuff. That's not permitted.
I know.
All of those systems, as far as we're concerned on this podcast, are rubbish, and all the people that are involved with them should be ashamed.
They don't exist.
Exactly.
Right.
Except for ICRPG, which is acceptable.
There's the sequel coming up, Fiery RPG, right?
What a crap joke. Alright, so anyway, I hope that the listeners enjoyed this episode of us going over some stuff. I mean, hopefully that will tip you off to some of our older content that maybe you missed, and hopefully that gives you some idea of some stuff you might want to check out, and maybe some stuff you might want to check out for next year. But for now, let's wrap this mother up.
Yo, motherfuckers, you all best back up. I always got a gun, I always come strap up. This ain't a game of pool, it ain't no time for no rack up. It's the motherfucking time for the motherfucking wrap up. Anyone who disagrees will get smack up. See me back in school when I shouldn't have learned to add up. Found a gun on the floor, instead I picked that up. Anyway, sorry, I'm motherfucking back up. What I'm trying to say is it's time for the wrap up. Yeah, this one goes out to all the ladies and all the men out there. Everyone in the front row, grease up. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Since we're wrapping this up and we're also wrapping the year up, thanks to all the guests that came on the show. Paris Conte, Jamie was back on the show, all the Kickstarter people, so many to name, the Giuseppe, Luis, and
I want to thank everyone that came onto all the actual plays as well, because they were very difficult to. We had to ask people to put 4 hours of their time aside and stuff like this. So yeah, cheers. Obviously, there's way too many people to mention, but thank you to all of those people: Stephen Hughes, Eli Kurtz, all of those people, everybody. So yeah, just thank you.
Spawn,
Dragon Spawn, Matt Stark. Loads of people. We had far too many people to even mention, but we were very privileged to be able to have all those people on, and we're very grateful for anyone that gives their time and effort to come on here, because it really, really means a lot, and it helps us to propel this show into new dimensions of awful. I mean, good.
Yeah. we
Of
like
all
hanging out with you guys. To me, that's my favorite part, meeting new people, hanging out with them, getting to know them. So, yeah, that was great. Coming up on the show, we've got, we'll resume Harrison's campaign, the Kings of Convenience. That'll be next episode, early January. And after that, I'm excited about this because we haven't done one in a long time, but a showdown episode where this time it's going to be Lankmar versus Guild of Shadows. A lot of people have been asking what's the difference between the two. They both seem to be about, thieves guild and that kind of stuff. So Harrison and I, we know Lankmar quite well, and then we have Richard Woolcock coming on the show to represent
that's exciting.
Guild of Shadows. He wrote quite a bit for that book, actually. So, and he knows Lankmar too. So I think that's going to be a pretty cool episode.
Anytime we can get Richard on here is a cool episode. Guy's just a fountain of information. In fact, we should have had him on to answer the questions about how many about the action penalties, because he probably would have said, "Just go to my webpage and I have an action penalty modifying something or other that I built." And I'd have been like, "Yeah, that's right. You probably do."
You know what? We should just leave the show and then put Manuel and Richard on here. If you want to get in contact with us, then you can email us at thewilddie@gmail.com, and you can also get in touch with us at the Google Plus communities at the Wild. I think that's my door. See you in a minute.
All right. So if you want to get in contact with us, you can email us at thewilddie@gmail.com or get a hold of us at the Google Plus, the Wild Die Podcast, part of the Nerds International community. On Twitter, you can get us at The Wild Die, and on Patreon, www.patreon.com/The Wild Die. Send us your money. We need to buy Harrison somebody to answer his door for him when it rings and the show is being recorded.
Well, Patreon, I know there's been a big, they screwed up, but they changed it. And so I know we lost a few patrons, but I'm really grateful for everybody else who keeps supporting us. Stay tuned because I've got an announcement to make later. We're just looking on to finalize a few details, but we want to offer the patrons more things, so we're going to change things around a little bit, and I think you guys are going to love it. Speaking of the patrons on Patreon,
The Wild Die Podcast would like to thank the following patrons: Sean Richards, Zodia, Tony Fanning, Romtown, John Peterson, Manuel Sams, David Maurice, Garrett, James Card, Peter Beckett, Peter Adams, Tom Lewis, Perry Chalmers, Digital Dungeon Master, Eli Kurtz, Matthew J. Hanson, Watson Beats, John Cease, Pure Mongol, Owen Lean, Andy Hall, Christopher Gray, and Bubbles. Best not forget Bubbles. Yeah.
you get deliveries on Sundays?
No, we're not supposed to. So, okay, I'm going to shut up.
It's a bomb. He just explodes.
All right, so thank you for the year. See you in 2018. And this is Eric saying, short mobsters get paid under the table.
Classic. And this is Harrison saying, grapple the Christmas merry skies, Christmas.
This is Gary saying, keep your pants on, keep it fun. Merry Christmas. Thanks, everybody. We're out.
Hello, children. It's me, Santa Claus. And when I'm not delivering presents to children I do like and poison to the ones I don't, I go around telling people that the Wild Die Podcast is not affiliated with or endorsed by Pinnacle Entertainment Group. Any other products that are mentioned on our podcast or appear on our website are the property of their respective owners. All music and items are used under fair use and educational review purposes, and all other items are the intellectual property of the Wild Die Podcast. So, Merry Christmas one and all. Have a good Christmas. Goodbye. Ho, ho, fuck off.